Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Tonight I wanted to do something special because, as you know, we have a large population of brown and black Cubans inside the island. As a matter of fact, there is it's one of the largest population because a lot of the Spaniards, white Cubans, have actually had an opportunity to leave the island. However, most brown and Hispanic and black Cubans have not had that opportunity. There was a this weekend, there was a post from Black Lives Matter on Instagram that actually took us all by surprise, only because I'm sure that my brown and black community were not represented by that post. Tonight, I want to give you guys some of the videos that I've been able to collect, and actually some other data. I want to start with a video from Berta Soler. Berta Soler is actually one of the Damas de Blanco, the women in white. They are a movement that started long ago in Cuba. They were a movement of women who had either their sons, spouses, or anyone in their families that were in jail for political reasons. And on Sundays, they would get together. They would go out into the streets and wear all white and take a flower in their hand. For many, many years, this movement of women only were beaten up and jailed by the dictatorship of our country. I have big respect for these women, and a lot of what you are seeing today, many of us here in the United States and around the world have been telling you for years. However, it wasn't until the internet came into play that now you are able to see the realities for yourself and see how this is playing out in our country. And the people there have now become, thank God, their own reporters, because as you know, it was all contained within the country, and the regime would not let this information out into the open. So I am going to start with that video because I found it and I think it's very interesting. I'm going to share my screen. Give me a minute. And I want to go ahead and give you guys this information.
En Cuba el racismo está en vivo. Estos productos del gobierno cubano, ustedes pueden ver que el Consejo de Estado, el gobierno, son muy pocos los negros los que dirigen. Los cargos administrativos no se los dan a los negros. Para poder entrar en el turismo, los negros son los menos que pueden entrar. Lo que siempre tengo que resaltar que la población penal en Cuba, la mayoría, o una gran parte, un 60% es de la raza negra. Los negros viven en barrios marginales. Los negros, para conseguir trabajo no es fácil, aunque sean buenos. Nosotros podemos caminar por las calles de Cuba y cuando vemos a un policía deteniendo o pidiendo el carnet de identidad a un ciudadano, por lo general siempre es a un negro. Para el gobierno cubano, el negro es el ratero, el negro es el bandolero, el negro es el descarado, y realmente los negros... negros son los que no tienen buenas condiciones de vida. El negro es el que no tiene familia en el exilio.
I wanted to stop this because I know that she's speaking in Spanish, but if you look at the captions, they are all in English and it's very well written. That's why I am not translating. I can go ahead and do a translation, but honestly, if you read the captions, and I wanted her testimony to be the one that is being heard and not mine. But the captions captures are extremely well written, and I really feel that the testimony that she is given as a Black woman is truly what is the integrity of this video. Please share if you are now just getting to us. Please share this video. Please share us on Facebook, on your YouTube. Please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. We are new. This is a new, and there is a lot of bad information on my country, and I would really like to share information straight from the horse's mouth, straight from Cubans. And this is one of the top political opposers in our country. She's been doing this for many years. Since the 1970s. And honestly, I give them lots of props because it's very hard to be in an opposition group inside of Cuba. And believe me when I tell you that I get continuous emails and messages on a daily basis from opposition people, groups, and mails from messages from people inside the Cuban community that they are opposed to the current regime. And when you oppose to them, they take you out of the system completely. You are no longer allowed to work. You are no longer allowed to gain any medication. You are no longer allowed to buy foods. So once you become an opposer to the current regime, you are taken out of the entire system. So to be Black and to be a woman, it takes a lot of courage for this lady to be doing what she does, and she does it every week. She does this. She's been doing this for many years on a weekly basis. So please listen to her testimony and read the captures because it gives you all the information you need to know.
Para que pueda ayudar con las remesas es la parte más sufrida, la parte más oprimida dentro de Cuba, y esto el gobierno cubano es uno que alimenta este racismo. También voy a poner un ejemplo. A nosotros las damas de blanco, cuando nos van a repudiar, muchas veces utilizan y me dicen: negra, ¿qué tú estás haciendo ahí? Tienes que agradecerle mucho a la revolución, que si no fuera por la revolución tú no comieras ni te vistieras. Negra mona, negra, quítate la peluca, negra, tú eres un quincón, negra cochina. Me dijeron los otros días: negra, Cristo se equivocó en mandarte a ti a darte la vida, que tú estuvieras sobre la tierra. Cristo mismo se va a sancionar porque tú no debiste haber nacido. Y estas cosas es delante del gobierno, porque son personas que el gobierno promueve para estas cosas tan desagradables. Pero bueno, realmente el racismo en Cuba es tan fuerte. Puedo también hacer una salvedad, que por parte de Cubano Pie no hacemos esto, porque podemos ver mucho, ahorita desaparecen los negros en Cuba, puesto que lo mismo se casa un blanco con un negro, como una negra con un blanco, y no hay este problema a nivel de familia, pero sí a nivel de gobierno.
Okay, that was one of my videos. I'm going to stop. So I'm going to stop this right now. And again, trying to stop screen. Okay. So that was one of my videos. I am now going to share two younger people. One is also a Black Cuban. She lives here in the United States. And I also have a testimony from a young white Cuban inside of Cuba. They're both in English, completely in English. So I am going to go ahead and do that at the moment. Give me 1 minute. And I'm going to share my window too. And if you can, please be patient because I
So throughout this entire situation on Cuba that's been going on for the past week, a lot of Cubans have respectfully asked non-Cubans to not commentate on the issue of Cuba if they have no tie to the island. And a lot of non-Cubans have responded saying, what do you mean I can't talk about Cuba? That makes no sense. That's a total fallacy. Of course I can talk about Cuba if I'm not Cuban. But the reality is you can't accurately speak on Cuba if you're not Cuban. And let me tell you why. Speaking on a situation in Cuba differs greatly from speaking on a social justice movement or another humanitarian crisis happening somewhere else in the world. Because if the Cuban government has done one thing right, it has been censorship. They've done a great job of monitoring what reporters come into the island and what organizations come into the island, and therefore for decades have very carefully controlled what information the world sees on Cuba. Notice how a lot of you had no idea the situation was going on until last week. And the only reason that you know this now is because of this. It's because you've seen it all over your feeds. But for us Cubans, we've been fully aware of the situation for decades now, and we've been watching it happen without coverage. And even those of us that have never lived in Cuba have always had really close ties to the island, and from a very young age have been made fully aware of the situation in Cuba. And up until now, the only information that a non-Cuban could get about Cuba was propaganda from the regime, very, very, very scarce reports on what life is like in Cuba, and testimonies. Granted, very few, since it's illegal for Cubans to report those things on the island. But as a non-Cuban, you have never received a phone call from a family member on the island telling you what they are living. You have never received a phone call from a loved one asking you to recharge their cell phone, to send them money, to send them a medication that is not available on the island, to send them food, to send them clothes, to send them sanitary products. You as a non-Cuban have never filled a suitcase to the brim with all the necessities that your family on the island is lacking, and then hoped and prayed that TSA would let it go through. And you've never been scared to arrive with all these necessities and it be taken from you at the Cuban airport. You as a non-Cuban have never had one of your family members cry because they are not allowed back in their country, not to visit, not to see their family members, not to see anybody, for searching for freedom. You as a non-Cuban have never known someone that jumped into the ocean on a makeshift raft because the situation is so terrible in Cuba that it is worth risking your life in the open sea. And so what we Cubans have is lived experience. And without that lived experience, the information that you have on Cuba is very, very limited. And if I were to sit down with you right now and explain to you what life in Cuba is like for everyday Cubans, and you asked me for sources, I would not be able to give them to you. Those kind of studies and reports are simply not allowed. And if you were to sit down with me right now and try to correct me on the situation in Cuba, it would be incredibly disrespectful Because as a non-Cuban, probably the most that you can know on the subject is maybe a 30%. This is not the kind of situation where we can tell you, go get informed, go read this report and this statistic and this study. You can't do that with this situation. The only thing we have is the information our family members are sending us from on the island. And so when we tell you to not commentate on what's happening in Cuba, we need you to listen, because this dialogue that you think you're having with us is not a dialogue. It is you speaking over us and speaking over the Cubans on the island because you have a false sense of authority on the subject. So your job as a non-Cuban is to listen to what they're saying on the island, listen to what their families are saying in the diaspora, and to amplify that. It's not to give your 2 cents, because this is way too complex for you to understand. You will never understand the situation the way that we do. And so I ask you that if you want to be a part of this and you want to do something valuable for the Cubans on the island, I ask you to sit down, I ask you to listen, and I ask you to amplify. I am not asking for your opinion on this, because your opinion does nothing for my people back home. Thank you. So throughout...
Oh, okay. So
Tenemos ahora la revolución delante y hay que defenderla.
okay. So I have one more video, and then I'm going to move on to an article that my friend Riquette sent directly to me, and it's truly...
President Joe Biden. My name is Adrian Herrera. I'm a Cuban citizen. I work at social media. I decided to make this video because we need your help. I'm demanding for your help. I'm asking you to help us, please. I've seen a lot of fake news over social media and even local news. We're not asking for vaccines or food or pills. We're just asking our freedom. We're demanding our freedom. You see that green light over there? That's not just for making this video cuter or feeling a nice place. No, this is a sign of hope. We Cuban people, we have hope. I was there screaming for my rights, screaming for my freedom, because here in Cuba, I know you already know this, but we don't have freedom. We don't have rights, not even one. We can't go out with a single piece of paper protesting for what we want. We cannot do that because they will take us to jail. We need you to please help us get out of this dictatorship, this government who are killing us. We are unarmed people. We don't have guns. We don't have a single knife. And they have guns. They have everything. They're killing people. We cannot show things because we don't have mobile data. You know, they turn off mobile data, they turn off Wi-Fi, everything. So it's hard to tell the people what is going on here. I'm trying to be polite as I can since I'm very angry and I don't know how to describe the feeling, but I'm feeling as I never thought I would feel. So my English is not perfect, but I hope you understand the message. We need your help. We need you. You have the power. You have everything we need to be free. Please, they're murdering us. They're killing us. You know everything is happening. And I see you're like taking your time, being nice, but please, we can't lose time. We don't have that time. People are dying day by day. Not even at hospitals, not even due to COVID, but in the streets, screaming for freedom, asking for freedom. We need the freedom. We need everything they took from us. So please, we ain't scared. We're not afraid. I'm not afraid. I was there for once, I was there twice, and I will be outside every single day because I want to be free. I don't care if I die trying to be free. I'd rather die there than die in a hospital or at home for doing nothing. There's a lot of prisoners who are there for doing nothing. Yesterday, they took an influencer, a girl who was just doing her job, speaking in social media freely, and To be clear, I'm not scared. I'm not worried about what may happen to me for doing this video or the other videos I've done. Because what I lived these days, that gave me such a confidence, such a brave boost to my life. And please, I beg you, they're murdering us, they're killing us, they have guns, and we have nothing. You need to give that order. I'm not asking you, I'm not telling you, please come take us there. No, set us free. That's all I'm asking for. That's all we are asking for. Everything the government can say is lies. Everything they're telling to news, that's a lie. They say we are a little bit of people. No, we're millions of people out there in the streets demanding freedom. And the ones who are not in the streets, it's because they are scared. They don't want to die. And police are shooting to people. Police are killing people, murdering people, taking people to jail. People who are just protesting politely. We're just screaming. We're just walking. We're not breaking things. We're not making a disaster. They are the ones who want to create the disaster. My president, who I didn't vote for, he sent troops to kill people. He gave the order to shoot people. That is he crazy? Yeah, he gotta be crazy. Because he gave the order to kill us. But guess what? We're not scared. I'm not scared. And we will die in the streets. So please help us, Biden. Help us. We need your help. You got the power. You can set us free like this. So please stop supporting this dictatorship. This ain't because blockade. No, that's not true. This is because of the revolution. They took everything from us, and now we're dying because we got nothing. I have a lot of friends who are in prison. We don't know nothing from them. They don't give them a call. We cannot bring a lawyer because there's no law here. That don't work. There's nothing working here. If you're really a democratic people, please help Cuban people. Help us. We're screaming. We're suffering. The whole world knows what is going on here. They're trying to cover it because they cut off social media, they cut off internet, they cut off everything. But things will come out and you will see it because videos are recorded and you will see it. You and everyone, the whole world will see it. They say we are being paid by anyone, by someone. No, we're not being paid. I'm doing this because I feel it, because I need it, because I want it. And the whole country wants that. I'm not gonna lie that there's a little bit of people who are screaming, I'm Fidel, I'm with the revolution. Yes, that's true. But let's say that's a million people. The other 10 million people, it's us. We're screaming for freedom. It's more than 95% asking for the same thing. So please, help us. I don't want to live like this anymore. My mom, my family, my friends, my brothers, my people cannot live like this. We're hungry, we're sick, but that's not the thing we want the most. The thing we really want is our freedom. We want to scream to the people everything we want, everything we think, because we cannot do it. Everyone here in Cuba is in prison because we are in an island jail. So set us free. You gotta break that chains. You have the power. You have the hammer to break that chains. They took everything from us, even the fear. So we're not afraid. I need to say it again because I want you to hear it loud and clear. We are not afraid. We're not scared by anyone, but we know we don't have weapon. We don't have way to win this without weapons because they have weapon. They're using weapon against us and we have nothing. I don't want a war. No. Only if they don't want to leave this government, this place. So please, they will kill us. They stole this country by guns. So this country must be taken back by guns, because they won't let this go. They won't give the power, because they are narcissists. They are killers. So we need your help. I've said this like 10 times right now, but we need it. They want the people to fight against each other. They want Cubans kill other Cubans because they don't want their hands covered in blood, but they already have it. Please, listen to me, listen to the people, listen to the country. We need your help. If I disappear, they have all the responsibility because they are doing that with everyone who talks, who speaks, who tells the truth. And I'm telling the truth here. We are asking for our freedom. And we are not asking for military intervention just because we want that, because that's the easiest way to make them disappear. We want that because they have guns, they're murdering people, they're killing us, and we are gonna die, and the world will never know. Do something, please, President Biden. Do something. Do not negotiate. This is very important. Do not negotiate. Do not listen to them. Listen to the people. Listen to your citizens, and even the Cuban people, Cuban citizens who live in Cuba. We are suffering this right now. They will try to manipulate you, manipulate everyone, but they know time's up for dictatorship. Forget about politics. Forget about anything else. Just think about humans' lives. Think about Cuban people. We don't need money. We don't need food. We don't want pills or vaccines, like I said, because government will sell that you are donating to us. They will sell it like they have done before. They sell everything to their own people. They're robbers. What kind of government sell to the people the things they receive as a donation for the people? That's crazy, man. I mean, that's something crazy. I really wish this video can get to you, President Biden. I hope you can see it. I hope you can watch this video, and not just watch it because I'm gonna watch it and that's all. No, listen to me, feel these words, and most important, do something. Do something, please. Help us. Get us out here. I'm not talking about the country. I'm talking about this situation, this dictatorship, this massacre. Now the government has Venezuelan and Mexican soldiers to fight us back. Well, we need American soldiers from around the world to fight them back. Please do something for us. Stop this. From the bottom of my heart, do something. Take part in this. Thank you for watching, and I really wish you could send this to anyone and then make this video get to President Biden. I know we will get through this. We will be free. And Patria Vida.
Okay, so sorry, I stopped sharing ahead of time. But in case you missed it, and in case you didn't understand his English, plain and simple, he is asking for us to not lift the embargo. Mr. Biden, President Biden, please help us be free. Our people are hungry, they're dying, they don't have medicine, but they want to be free. In case you didn't understand the message, let me give it to you in plain English. Our people want to be free. They are out in the streets knowing that they're going to get killed, knowing that they're going to get beaten. There are over 500 people that have disappeared. Most of them, we don't know where they're at. I'm sure they're in some kind of jail, but they don't tell their family where they're at. So we have them in a disappearing list because we don't know where they're at exactly. Over 500 people since July 11th. It is day 10th today. And there are still people out on the streets fighting for their freedom. On the second day, the head of the state told the revolutionaries to go against the revolutionaries. So I'm going to read actually exactly what he said. He said, "We are calling on all the revolutionaries in the countries, all of the communists to take the streets and go to the places where these provocations will take place. The order of combat is given. The streets to the streets revolutionaries." That was his command. And that's exactly what they did. And not only are there Cubans fighting against Cubans, we have videos of buses of Venezuelans coming into the airport of Cuba and coming into Cuba to reprimand our people. That they are peacefully protesting out on the streets, and they are not asking for vaccines, and they are not asking for food, and they are not asking for any of those things that NBC, ABC, and even Fox News is putting on their channels. They are asking for freedom. Please, I beg you, please share this video. If there is one thing I need you guys to do is to share this video. The information needs to get to the people. Americans are only watching one side of the story. They are not seeing the realities. Our message is getting diverted, and we need to give the message of the people from Cuba. There was a commission put together through President Biden's administration. Unfortunately, this commission is not representing our people, and I have to tell that straightforward. There are a lot of people in that commission that are not representing the people from within Cuba. This so-called commission that or Cuban leaders have advised incorrectly to Biden. They have told Biden to lift the embargo. That is not going to help the Cuban people. You can lift the embargo tomorrow. That will not make our people free. The only thing that will do is make the military and the government more, give more money to the military and the government. More money for them to reprimand and for them to buy more weapons to beat up our people out in the streets. Lifting the embargo is being out of touch with the people that are asking for freedom. Lifting the embargo will not, and I want to be very clear, lifting the embargo will not help the people from Cuba at all. I have plenty of evidence of how there are U.S. companies that are linked directly to the communist regime. They are U.S. companies, completely legal in the United States. They are consulting companies that are getting people to go to Cuba and invest in Cuba. That's what happened when the sanctions were lifted, when Obama lifted the embargo in 2017. All of these U.S. companies, these that are linked directly with the Cuban regime, and when I say directly, I mean these are Cuban people, okay, that these are communist people linked to the Castro regime, directly linked to the Castro regime, that came to the United States legally, yes, and they have legal U.S. companies. Most of them have consulting firms, and they have used these firms to go out and get U.S. companies to invest in Cuba. However, what they're not telling these U.S. companies is the reality. When you invest in Cuba, the regime owns 51% of that company. 51%, which means they have the majority of stake. Additionally to that, they pay the Cuban people, and they pay them in their currency, and they pay them their salaries by what the salaries there are. The American companies cannot pay our people in the desired or the salaries that are out in the market. Not even minimum wage my people are making. And yet we continue to look the other way. And we continue to say that this is okay. It is okay for militaries to go inside a person's home and shoot them in front of their children. It is okay for the military to go and take the children. They're taking 14, 15, 16-year-olds, okay, away from their families. They are taking them away. And they are putting them in the first front line against their own countrymen. And they are telling them that if they don't do this, they're going to disappear their families. They're going to disappear their moms and dads and brothers and sisters. What would you do if you were 15 years old? This is a genocide. My people have no guns. My people have nothing. Please understand. We are not the bad ones here. We have the power. America has the power to leverage this to the international community and request a humanitarian intervention. This is all we are asking for. This is not a political issue. Please don't make this about Democrats and Republicans. Please don't make this about Black Lives Matter, because Black lives don't matter to communists. They don't matter in my country. I'm going to give you I just gave you a testimony. I'm going to give you some more. But the reality is Black lives do not matter to communism. They don't matter in my country. My people are dying. Most of our opposition groups, their leaders are Black. What does that tell you? Black Lives Matter. I think you got this wrong. Just because Cuba went to Africa to fight for you, that does not make it right. The only reason Cuba does this around the world is because they wanted this. They wanted you to back them up when they needed you. They've done a great job at doing a propaganda around the world. Of course they have. You can go anywhere in the world, and people love Fidel Castro and people love Che Guevara. And that is what they're feeding our youngsters today. Inside this country. Communism is a cancer that eats up wherever it gets, wherever it goes. Look at Venezuela, one of the largest economic countries in Latin America. Look at what it has turned into. Who is behind Venezuela's regime? Has anyone asked themselves this? Has anyone asked themselves, why is nobody taking action against Cuba? Has anyone asked, why are these reasons? Why is nobody doing anything internationally? There's a lot of blah, 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 but no action is being taken. Why are these international humanitarian organizations not doing their jobs? Have you asked yourself this? Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why. The reason is everyone has a cut into this. Everyone does. Cuba is the perfect place for every single illegal action to take place. You've got your Colombians, you've got your Nicaraguans going there, you've got your Argentinians going there, you've got your Spaniards that go there to invest money in their hotels, but you know what else they do? Do you know what else they do with the young people of my country? Young girls, 14, 15-year-olds. Yes, you can only imagine. And who actually advertises and markets this? You guessed it. Yes, the dictatorship. And do you know why? Because they knew that this day would come. They knew that one day our people were going to say enough is enough. But now they have evidence of all of these people, all of this government, all of these high-ranking people in government from all over the world doing nice things with 14 and 15-year-olds. They knew that this was going to come. And now they have everybody. They have them all. And they are saying, well, you either need to back us up and say that this is all a lie, or we have videos of you and your family is going to know who you are exactly. That's exactly what is happening in Cuba. And that is exactly what is happening in the high rankings of the entire world. And it is shameful. It is very shameful that this is happening. And one day, all of the truth is going to come out. So, regardless of what you guys do now, one day, everything will come to flourish because the Lord says so. It's written in the Bible. It is written in the Bible. So for all of you high-ranking government elite here in the US, in Europe, and in Latin America, I'm sure they have plenty of videos on you guys. And I'm not gonna be political correct on this one. I'm sure they have plenty of videos with our young people, because our young people are hungry, because they're willing to do whatever they have to do to survive. And unfortunately, the dictatorship, what do? They market this. They don't just market tourism. They market tourism with sex. And we have plenty of testimonies. We have plenty of testimonies. But I'm going to share another. I'm sorry, I got a little carried away there, but sometimes the occasion requires it. I'm going to share another. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Okay. So this is an article that came out today from Reason, Free Minds and Free Markets. It is an online article, and you can all look it up. Basically, in their own words, this is what it's actually like for Black and brown people in Cuba. And I'm going to go ahead and read. I'm going to read on my other screen, so I can't be looking at you while I'm doing it. It starts, the headline is, "They're arresting people at their homes." In 1979, Asata Shakur of Black Liberation Army achieved a near impossible feat. She escaped from the Clinton Correctional Facility for Women, where she was serving a life sentence for first-degree murder in New Jersey State Trooper Werner Foster, after a shutdown of the state turnpike. She has remained a free woman ever since, having been officially granted political asylum by Cuba in 1984, 5 years post-breakout. Shakur's story serves as something of a symbol for the relationship between some of America's social justice movements and Cuba's authoritarian regime. Take the statement released last month by Black Lives Matter, addressing the ongoing protests in Cuba amid the government's inability to provide basic food and medicine. And it directly states what was said by Black Lives Matter. It says, since 1962, the United States has forced pain and suffering on the people of Cuba by cutting off food, medicine, and supplies, the group wrote, referring to the U.S. embargo on the trade. Quote, "The people of Cuba are being punished by the U.S. government because the country has maintained its commitment to sovereignty and self-determination instead of international amity, respect, and goodwill. The U.S. has only instigated suffering for the group 11 million people, of which 4 million are black and brown. End quote. The statement also mentions Cuba's protection of Shakur. It's true, the U.S. trade policies have exerted Cuba's woes, in so much as the communist island has been unable to reap the rewards of American capitalism. Apart from that, the sovereignty and self-determination of a country's government has led to mass oppression of those 11 million who are only equal in that they are equally starving. But don't take it from me, Black Lives Matter is using the situation in Cuba to club their own government over the head, says a 35-year-old Cuban activist whose identity has been redated as he participates in the nation's first protest in more than 60 years. What's wrong with them? He asks. In a conversation recorded and sent via WhatsApp, an encrypted message service, 2 Cuban demonstrators, who are both black, responded to the claim that the 4 million black and brown people of Cuba are truly free. After I reach out via intermediate and ask them to react to the Black Lives Matter statement, the clip of the 2 speaking of each other was sent to Date magazine Nicolas Jimenez, who translated it and shared the transcription with reason. The correspondence was dispatched via encrypted message because Cubans cannot talk openly about the Cuban government. In fact, the conversation heavily features the 2 protesters going back and forth on whether it is safe to respond to my press request at all. You have to respond in any way it doesn't screw you over, says the other activist, who is 25-year-olds. They're arresting people in their homes, he says. That's why I tell people not to screenshot my messages, responds a 35-year-old. I've reviewed it. And I think I'm safe with all the Instagram content. I'm not sure. He adds that he would have liked to respond with a video, but I can't expose myself that way, he notes, because it's true that they're rounding people up. The Cuban Revolution sought to engineer forced equality via communism following the overthrow of the brutal military dictator President Fulgencio Batista. But that equality is a myth, says the activist who argued that the Cuban government tries to hide the lingering effect of institutionalized and systematic racism. At a recent university protest, a 35-year-old relays that special forces went directly after Black people. The 25-year-old agrees the idea is that only people on the margins protest against the government. Only delinquents, he says. In fact, they used to call it revolution for the poor, and now they just call it marginalized and delinquent to describe what happens, which is a way of hiding their racism and their classism right. Riquet Caballero, a Black Cuban immigrant to the U.S. and a friend of mine, also states issue of the assertion of the country is equal, a claim made by the Democratic Socialist America and journalists like the New York Times, Nicole Hannah Jones. In an interview Caballero describes his confusion after coming to the U.S. in the late 90s and and noticing various differences in the two nations. He no longer had to make his own kites out of reeds and newspapers, and to his surprise, kids no longer played baseball with drumsticks or bottle caps. Other differences were more dramatic. When Caballero came to the Cuban public schools in the America Olympics in '96 basketball jersey, his teacher threatened him with re-education unless his mother stole Coca-Cola from her factory job and turned it over to the school party. Also, used to steal light bulbs and sell them for candy, he adds. He was able to ditch that aside hustle upon moving to the US. I would say that I have thanks to Cuba is to be grateful for having opportunities. Having demounted a libertarian bid in 2018 for the Florida House of Representatives, I realized that here in America, you could basically make anything of yourself. The pursuit of happiness is something that is really central to my core. That mentality is not welcome in Cuba. On the contrary, it's actively discouraged and punishable by law. There was a man that was arrested who produced illegal cheese, noted Caballero. He didn't report all of the milk and the cows were producing, even though they were his cows. He only reported the milk production, started making cheese and selling it on the side. The government found out and they confiscated his cheese making operation. The man was then sent to jail, says Caballero. Like the two activists in Havana, Caballero also altogether rejects the claim made by the American lefties and Cuba has been able to construct racial equality. They really made sure to control the black population because we have a history of being fighters. BLM in particular has been criticized by the right for having Marxist rules. While it is certainly not true that every person involved in this with or sympathetic with BLM is also a Marxist, the group supports for communist regime in Cuba has caused it support from the people who otherwise identify with the broader civil liberties goals of the movement. When they killed George Floyd, I remember that all the Cubans in Miami were accusing BLT of being Marxist, of being communist. I defended them. Bro, I would say, look, it's more than that. The 25-year-old activist says that the voice recording, and now I see that no, it's actually less than that. It's like they have this ideology starting point from which they see the world instead of standing alongside allies and people who are going through the same thing they are. You feel alone, he says. You feel like, I don't know, it's a letdown. It's horrible, really. So, that, my friends, is the truth. That there's not much more to add to this. This is how our world sees us. I understand that this is hard for Americans to understand. It is hard for you to understand when we tell you, no, we don't want you to send money right now. We don't want you to send donations right now. But if you looked at the video of this young man, he stated to you that the government will sell your donations to their own people. We have sent containers full of donations. They have been sold to our people at very high prices. Remittances, I know that there is this group that is trying to send remittances and avoiding the government. I don't know how you can do that. I hope they find a way. But all of the banks in Cuba, every single one of them, is owned and operated by the Cuban government. Every single, I don't know how to make people understand, but it's the truth. Every single government entity, every single hotel, every single restaurant, everything is owned by the government. The small little things that are owned by the people get taxed and sanctioned continuously by the government. This is what happens in our country. We are not making it up. I know that until today, for 62 years, the people outside of Cuba have been telling you these stories, and you haven't believed us. You haven't believed us because it's hard for you to believe the truth. I understand it. I get it. But now, the people inside of Cuba, guess what they did? They told you their stories. They send them to you in videos. There's no way you can close your eyes anymore. This is the truth. This is what our people are living. This is not about black or white. This is not about Republicans or Democrats. This is about human rights. Human rights that are given the day we are born by God. The day God gives us that life, He gives us those rights. And you can't buy them. They cannot be bought. But I have the right to think differently from you. I have the right to vote for a different party than yours. Give my people those rights. Let them elect what they want. They're not asking you for your money. They're not asking to migrate to the United States. They're asking you to leverage what you have to international organizations. You have that power. The U.S. has the power to leverage this to the United Nations, to ONU, to so many international organizations that can do an international intervention. My people are dying. Children are dying. These organizations were put in place after Hitler did what he did to the Jewish people. Now the Castros are doing the same thing to the Cuban people. Are we going to sit around and let this happen? And if we do, this will be on everyone's conscience. If we do, and you just sat around and let this happen, this will be on everyone's conscience. So a lot of my friends are asking, what can we do? How can we help? Please call your representatives wherever you are. If you are in Texas, if you are in Arizona, if you are in California, if you are in New York, we have all the Florida representatives helping us. But we need more. We need more help. I actually have a letter that we have been sending out to the Congress and to the President. I'm actually going to read that letter to you tonight. Dear Mr. President and members of Congress and Senate, we write to you on behalf of the Cuban exile community from all around the world, but especially the Cuban exiles in the United States. The community consists of members ranging from those who have recently migrated from Cuba to those who thought refused in the United States in the peak of the Cuban communist regime initiated by Fidel Castro revolution in 1959. The request that we make below also includes proposals of most of the opposition Cuban civil society in and out of the island, as expressed on the Pasos de Cambio platform. As you may already know, this July 11th, 2021, the illegitimate president of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, gave a combat order to physically attack every Cuban who was peacefully demanding freedom and political changes on the streets. Specifically, the dictator ordered, quote, "We are calling on all revolutionaries in the country, all the communists to take to the streets and to go to the places where these provocations will take place. The order of combat is given to the streets revolutionaries," end quote. This, of course, has already caused the deaths and disappearance of those who have peacefully demanded freedom along with basic human rights in the streets of Cuba. Even though Cuban dictatorships bans independent media, we have received innumerable videos, pictures, testimonials, and written statements from inside the island informing and showing us that the military is shooting, torturing, hitting, killing, and even kidnapping those who have marched unarmed on the streets of almost every Cuban city in the past July 11th of 2021, shouting Libertad. The Cuban dictatorship has always suppressed dissent and any type of opposition to the political system in place by criminalizing it and penalizing it. They repress and punish both dissent and public restrictions, fines, online harassment, termination of studies and employment, unlawful search and seizures, and even unlawful surveillance. The Cuban dictatorship has only recognized a single political party and has denied its citizens the right to vote for over 62 years. However, since July 11th of 2021, the Cuban dictatorship took its stance against political change of the island to those who's different to a whole new level. We have seen children killed, beaten, and snatched from their homes. We have seen the elderly deprived from immediate medical attention because of family members who have participated in the call for a change on July 11th. We have seen threatening emails to Cuban warning them that if they don't oppose to the courageous people chanting freedom and demanding political and social change, they will be negated their already earned wages. And we have also gathered a list of hundreds of missing individuals that were last seen arrested during the call for freedom that took place on the streets on July 11th of 2021. Accordingly, our demands are simple. We need you to help us free Cuba. As Secretary of State Blinken has said, there are no better ambassadors for freedom than the Cuban Americans. So to that end, we request the following. Number one, immediate demand that the illegitimate president of Cuba, Miguel Diaz-Canel, as well as the communist government, step down from the presidency and relinquish their power to the people so that the next president representative be elected by the Cuban people. Number two, refuse to negotiate with the Cuban dictatorship and instead lead a humanitarian intervention for the freedom and safety of the Cuban civilians. Number three, provide a communications outlet for the Cuban people inside the island, allowing them access to internet after it has been revoked by the dictatorship, which is also keeping them without electricity to suppress and silence them. Number four, demand the immediate unconditional release of all political prisoners being held without just cause and fair trial. Number five, allow the Cuban people to have basic Cuban human rights such as freedom of speech, freedom of opinion and expression, freedom of assembly, and freedom of association without fear of government prosecution. Number six, sanction Cuban's government leaders pursuant to the Global Magnitsky Act for violations of human rights and ban them from entering the United States and freezing their assets. Number seven, demand all companies doing business with Cuba to abide by the global Sullivan principles, which align companies of all sizes to work together towards common goals of human rights, social justice, and economic opportunity. Number eight, immediate freeze of the Cuban government's sources of funding, effectively forbidding the Cuban military and government from retaining the remittances sent by the people. These are our requests. The Castro dictatorship is a self-benefiting, cruel, inhumane, and murderous form of government. The regime is an anti-American outpost in our hemisphere that has destabilized the entire continent. The United States must save the Cuban people to protect freedom and democracy in the entire hemisphere. The regime's communist propaganda has perfected the art of lying to the Cuban people and the international community. We are here to debunk these lies and debunk the lobbyists who represent the dictators in Washington. Mr. President, it is time to end what the Cuban Communist stands for now. Venezuela's social and economic crisis is a clear example of what Castro's regime, interventionist, leads to. Nicaragua, Colombia, and Chile are also victims of a Cuban interventionist, and the crisis in these nations could be exacerbated even further. To end, citing another recent example of oppression by the Cuban dictatorship, I will tell you about back in 2020, more than 45 tons of 45 tons of food and medicines were collected by the Cuban American community in Miami. Those donations were sent to the island through Christian churches. The dictatorship held these donations hostages, proceeded to steal the donations, and then shamelessly sold these donations in US dollars to the people. How much more will Cubans have to endure to deserve freedom? As American citizens, we implore you to respect our interests as you ask you to work with us to achieve freedom for the Cuban people. Respectfully, the Cuban people need saving. For that, we need your help. We demand answers and actions. Thank you, the people of Cuba. And with this, I end today's program. Thank you for watching. Please, I ask for you to share. We need to make sure that these messages are seen by as many English-speaking people as possible. I ask that you please share with all your friends and in all your social media. I will also be making a smaller video with just the letter with the demands. I think it is important for those demands to be heard and to be sent out in a very efficient way. And I think social media is the best way to do that. Thank you all very much, and have a good night. God bless.